Okay, so till now we have added only 5 actions. Okay, I just reran it. So one is the launch browser. I mean the URL. We are navigating to the URL. We are selecting the category and we are selecting the value, getting the value from the UI and then closing the browser. Okay. If you want to skip any action, I mean you want to make it as inactive, you can do it as like this. You can inactive any action because I don't want to close it now. And next part, I want to get the count of all the categories. Okay, I want to get the count of all the categories. So my categories are art and crafts, automotive, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if I write a next path, something like this, I will say at the rate name equal to URL. Okay, so this gives me the XPath till the drop down element. Okay, and then if I slash right select slash option. Okay, so it's giving me 28 results and I want to capture this count as 28 because tomorrow this count may be 32, 42 or any other number. Okay, so I want to get the count, so I will copy this XPath. Okay, I will add I will add this action here after launching the URL. I will add another UI element action and I will name it as get category count. Okay, so I want to get the category count first. Okay, how much categories are there on the screen. Okay, so I added a UI element action and name it as get category count. I will go to the operation settings and I will say I want to locate it by XPath. I will provide the XPath as slash slash select at the rate name equal to URL and slash option. Okay, because this is the XPath and I want to check the categories of the XPath. So I will say this is a combo or radio button option and I want to get the count. So there is a element action called get element count. Okay, so this basically operation gives us the number of count of this particular XPath. How many elements are there with this XPath? If you want to check, if you provide any XPath which has multiple results, you can use this term as element count. Okay, get element count. If you run this action now, it will not work because my browser is closed. Okay, I don't have my browser opened. That's why this run action will not work. Okay, because it will try to fetch, it will try to search for this particular XPath, but there is no such XPath. Okay, so just a minute, it launched it like this. I will again rerun my launch URL action so that I will be able to check if I'm getting the count properly. Okay. So why we are getting this count? Can anyone guess why we want to get this count? Okay. So we were discussing how why we are getting the count here. Okay, because we are using an operation get element count, and if I run this action now, you can see this action is passed, and it is giving me a correct count that is 28 because there are total 28 categories. Okay, so always remember if you want to get a particular element, a number of elements from that particular XPath, you can use this operation get element count, get item count. Okay, so now as I get 28, I will be storing them into a variable. Okay, so I will create a new variable and I will name this variable as category count. So is it an activity variable category count? Okay, so there may be different category count as well. So what I will do is I will store this into a variable and that variable is nothing but ACT category count. Okay, reopen it and put values category count. So everyone is able to map it, the count, to this variable category count.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah. So we were getting the count, okay, the category count, and we'll try to select each value at each value, each category count at each category from the drop down. Okay, so how we can do it? So first of all, we need to get a variable, okay, a variable which will be actually our index. Okay, so I will create a new variable. Okay, and I will name it as this is my variable, and I will name it as ACT underscore index. Okay, so this is my index variable which I will be using it. Okay, I will do one thing. Okay, I will have an initial string value as 1. I will store a value 1 inside this index variable. Okay, by default it should be 1. Okay, and you can see this select category. Okay, I don't want to select my category by text. I will be selecting by index.
Okay.
Okay, I will not be selecting by text anymore because there are multiple categories. I want to select one after
Mm-hmm.
the other. I don't know the text of each and every category, right? So I will be selecting by index, and I will pass that particular index variable over here, which I just created now, index variable, which has value 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what it will do, it will select the first value, okay, from the category drop down. Now what I need to do is I need to increment this count, this index variable, okay, to 2, because next time I want to select the second category, right? So what I will do, I will use the general actions, and I will select a set variable action. Okay, so there is a set variable action number 22. I will add this set variable action after 3. Okay, what it will do, basically I want to set my index variable. Okay, I want to set my index variable to +1. Okay, I want to increment it each time. So for that purpose, okay, I will try to evaluate. Okay, let me zoom it out a little bit so that I can get a good idea. Okay, so you can see there are multiple functions, date and time, manipulations, operations. Okay, all of them are there. Okay, so if you go to this data operations, you have a math operator. You want to add something. Okay, there is a data operation called category in this expressions, and this data operations I want to do a math operation. Okay, in this
Mm-hmm.
math operation I want to perform an addition. Okay,
Okay.
and that addition is nothing but I don't want to do 5 plus 3. Okay, I don't want to do um it will be displayed for some time. So if I evaluate this, okay, this expression, then this will give me 5 plus 3 as 8. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want to add 5 plus 3. I want to increment my, you can see 8 here in the result.
The
I want,
indexed.
yes, I want to increment the index. So I will write ACT index plus 1.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Okay. So what we are doing here, we are incrementing the index variable so that we can select the second category. When it is second is selected, we again increment it to 1 to make it 3. Okay, and so on and so forth. We will keep on incrementing until it becomes 28.
Okay.
Okay, so if you now try to play it, you get 2. Okay, because by default index variable has a value 1, and 1 plus 1
Mm-hmm.
becomes 2. Okay, and I'm using a set variable action. I will rename it to say it is to increment index. Okay, we have added this action to get the count. Okay, to get the count of the categories present on the Amazon page. Okay, and we have added this action. This is a set variable action. Okay, if you go here, you can see there is an action called set variable action at number 22 in general actions tab. Okay, so here we have added a set variable action because we are selecting the category by index, no more text or value. We are selecting the drop down value by index, and we have created that index variable. Okay, you can see ACT index. Okay, and we have by default put it a value 1 over here. Okay, so that each time our index will be for 1 first of all, and then we will be selecting the first value. Index 1 means the first value from the drop down. Okay, once it is selected, we need to increment the index. That's why this set variable action, and therefore we are doing this set variable action of ACT index. We want to do ACT index to override the value with +1. So this expression where we have written, we have opened the expression editor, we had gone to data operations, math, add. Okay, so if you double click on this add one, you get this expression as 5 plus 3. Just an example for you that 5 plus 3 becomes 8. But here don't we want to make it as 8. We want to increment the index with +1. So we can increment the count of index using this. Okay, and we can set override the variable from 1 to 2. Okay, if you guys are really getting confused, I can create a fresh activity for you and can start from the scratch. I mean, I will quickly do it, but you will get confidence like what is exactly we are doing. Okay, but this is very important, guys. The looping and everything you should be very confident, because later on we will be reading the data from Excel. Okay, and there we
Mm-hmm.
will use the same loop concept to read the different data. Okay, so at that time you should not get into a problem, because at that this is the time we can clear our doubts, we can get the confidence. This is a little bit tricky, guys. That's why I'm repeating again that we need to understand our problem statement. Our problem statement here is we need to select different categories from the drop down. In order to select different categories from the drop down, we are using select by index. Okay, and the index is changed. We will iterate from 1 to 28. How we can iterate
Mm-hmm.
from 1 to 28 is to increment count, is this to increment this index variable by 1 every time. Okay, for that we are using this set variable action. Okay, which is used to increment the count. Now once the count is incremented, what we need to do, we need to jump back to this category action, right? Because it will first
Yeah, yeah.
select that and then increment the count, then again select the next, then increment the count, then select the next, then increment the count, and then select the next, somewhere like this. Behind this 3 and 4, it keep on rotating until it is become 28. Okay, so we need to pass flow control here, that if this particular action is passed, I mean you are able to increment the count. Okay, you need to go to the action select category with that particular index. Okay, So in that way it will keep on looping it. Once its looping is done, okay, once it's looping, but we have to provide an exit criteria as well. Okay, we need to provide an exit criteria that the index should be less than count. Okay, less than or equal to count. Otherwise it will keep on 29, 30, 31, 32.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no such
Oh.
category at 30, 31, 32, 33. Right, it is only till 28.
Yep.
Okay, so I will pass a custom condition over here saying that, okay, that my variable, that is my index variable, okay, this index variable should be less than or equal to my category count.
28.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay, if the category count is greater than index variable, then only run this loop. Otherwise come out of loop and stop the execution. So let me get the category count first. Okay, so my variable is now filled up with 28. You can see here 28. Okay, and I will check, keep on checking. I will increment by 1, then go back to select category. Okay, and here it will select by index that particular category, go back to index, incrementing it, and in the flow control it will keep on checking every time if this particular index is less than or equal to 28. What if it becomes 28 at the last, in the last of the loop it becomes 28? Now 28 is become equal to 28, which is a true condition. It will again go here to select the category at 28. Okay, let's see, let's see if we have the 28th number there or not. If I put an index over here as 28, you can see the last category is video games. Okay, and after that if I put 29, there is no such X path, no such valid category there. So at 29 I need to break. Okay, so whenever it becomes 29, it will move ahead, it will not go, it will, this flow control will not follow, and will move to the next step. Okay, to check. Okay, so for now I am skipping this part because on the UI I don't want to validate, I don't want to do this. I just want to close the browser if it is there, or even I will not close the browser, I will just skip all these 3 steps. Just I am looping around the categories for now. Okay, so let's try to run. Maybe it will fail, but we will check why it failed and what happened. Okay, but let's see. So it launched this amazon.com page. Okay, and then arts and crafts, automotive, baby, beauty products, books, computers, and so on and so forth. It should go till video games, which is the last category from this drop down. Perfect. Woohoo. Okay. Cannot locate option with index 28. Sorry. So the index starts with 0. That's why here we are not getting at 28. We should be getting till 27 only. Okay, so I will remove that equal to condition over here. It should be less than 28 only, means 27 till 27 at index starts with 0. Okay, so now it should work fine, but it's able to select all the categories basically, which is our purpose. Okay, we need to keep on checking the category, and now you see the difference. Okay, how much time you take it manually, and once you automate it, how much quickly, just on a single click, everything you can see on your screen that it's automatically selecting all the values from the drop down. So that's the beauty of automation. Okay, because if these kind of repetitive tasks you need to do, okay, you should not do it manually. Okay, clear everyone? So now there is a problem over here. Okay, what is the problem? The problem is, last time when we execute it, our count becomes 28 and we have not reset the value. Okay, The 28 becomes 28, and that's why this execution failed, because we need to first, when we are executing the flow from the scratch, we need to reset the value of the index. Okay, why? Because last time if you have run it, it could have taken the previous value. So I will set it to reset value. What does that reset value means? Back to the default value. What is the default value of this index? It is 1, initial string value. So maybe you executed once, then it becomes 28, then you need to again reset it to 1, okay, as a fresh execution. So therefore I added one more action called reset index, because each time you run you need to reset it index first to 1. Okay, so I reset index as 1 after launching the URL. Then I get the count as 28. Then I select the first one, because my index value is 1. I reset it to 1. Then I increment it to 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. So now it should work fine, because I hadn't resetted my index variable. This is very important, guys. Okay, whatever variable you are using, you can see it is keep on fluctuating between 5 4 5 4 5 4. Why? Because it will work 28 times like this to set different categories. Okay, last one is the video games. What is an error handler? So if you add and try to add a new activity, there are two options, either a type regular or either a type error handler. Okay, so what is an error handler? So first of all we have to understand what is an error handler. Okay, so an error handler is basically an activity. It is nothing but an activity which will run every time you get a failure. Okay, every time you get a failure you need to run a particular activity, that is called error handler. For example, your application is little bit slow. Okay, your application is slow and you keep on getting a pop-up on your application. Okay, some warning pop-up. You can't ignore that pop-up. Okay, you cannot suppress that warning pop-up. Each time you have to click on OK button. Okay, in order to suppress it. So, and you don't know actually when it will come. Okay, it can be come in the first step, it can be come in the second step, it can come at any place. Okay, but you know that you have to click on the OK button to suppress that pop-up. So in these condition you can add a error handler where exactly you are not sure exactly when you will get that pop-up. Maybe you just launch the URL, launch your application and get a pop-up, or you can get a pop-up in between the flow at any moment. If we are particular, we are specific that we get at a particular step only, then we will configure it. Definitely we will handle it. But what happens if it comes at any random point in your when your execution is going on? So at that moment we can add a error handler. Okay, just you can, how you can do it, add a error handler is click on this plus, add new activity. You can select the type as error handler. Okay, and you can click on next. Okay, you can name it as this, and error handler as handle pop-up alert. Okay, and you can select the target application specifically if it is a web or window based or whatever, and it's of type error handler, and click on finish. So you can see this is a tool icon which is coming as an activity. This is not a more an activity, this is error handler. Okay, what is this error handler? This error handler will execute at any moment when there is a failure. Okay, so you get this idea. Okay, the error handler is basically execute will be executed whenever you get a failure. Okay, so I will explain you with a diagram. Okay, so I will explain you with a diagram. Okay, let's suppose there are multiple activities for you. Okay, activity 1, activity 2, and each activity has different actions. Activity 1, okay, and this activity 1 has different action, like action 1, action 2, and so on and so forth. Okay, now you are not sure at which point you will get it. Either that pop-up is at action 1, or you will get it after before running the action 2, or at any step. Okay, so for that purpose we have this error handler. Okay, so this error handler will execute whenever you get a failure, either it's a normal failure or a pop-up failure or any other failure. Okay, this error handler would automatically get called whenever there is a failure in the script. Either the failure is at action 1, action 2, or at any moment on any action. Even if it is at activity 1, or it is at activity 2, or anywhere. Okay, maybe you have multiple activities in your business flow, where activity 2 has also action 1, action 2, and so on and so forth. And at any moment, let's suppose activity 1 ran successfully, complete activity 1, you move to activity 2, and in activity 2 the first action only failed, then automatically this error handler will handle that pop-up and will continue the flow from action 2. Where exactly you will get the error, and in those cases we will give this error handler that I want to run this error handler to be executed whenever there is a failure. Okay, so I will quickly do one thing. I will create a new business flow this time, so that you will get a good idea. Okay, and I will name it as make my trip. Okay, just a booking website, makemytrip.com. Okay, so that we will work on some different UI as well. We will not work on a single website, so that you get a good idea about the expats and all things. So I opened makemytrip.com. Okay, this is the website, how it looks like, the UI. It is used to plan your holidays, flights, and hotel tickets. Okay, so I created a new business flow, and these business flow have by default this activity. Okay, I will name the activity as, maybe I will name this activity as flight search. Okay, I want to search the flights here in this activity of make my trip. So I just created a new business flow related to make my trip and added a new activity called search flight. Okay, here I will add the action the same way as like action library, platform actions, browser action, and inside that browser action I will configure the page as https, or I can pass it via environment. Why should not we pass it via environment if we have the environment? So I will duplicate this environment for now. Okay, environment 2, which will open my make my trip web page. Okay, and I will change the URL. I will change the URL. See how easy it is. Okay, to configure a new environment. Click on save, and the same I will choose here as environment 2, and I will pass that environment app URL parameter here. Environment app parameter data, environments, environment 2. Okay, applications, my web app, global parameters, and the URL. So this will open my make my trip URL. Okay, and I will name it as launch URL. Cool. So till this point everything is fine. Okay, now what I will do is I will make use of the error handler. Okay, so I will add a new activity, which is nothing but my error handler. Okay, it will not be a regular activity, it will be a error handler, and I will name it as uh, error handling, let's suppose. Okay, and this is a type of error handler. I will click on finish. So this is my error handler. I will make it active. I don't want to be in inactive state. I want to make it active. So I have two activities, not two activities, one activity and one error handler. Okay. Now what I will do is I will add an action over here, or maybe first of all I add a variable here. Okay. And that variable name may be, okay, that variable name will be as count, act_count. Okay. So this variable is a count variable, let's suppose. Okay. And I will be doing a set variable action. Okay. Here, what does that set variable action do? It is used to set a variable value. Okay. So I am putting, I want to get this count variable as 1. I want to set a variable value. Okay. So let me rename it as set count variable as 1. Okay. Here I'm setting it as 1. Okay. I'm first launching the URL. I'm setting the variable count as 1. Till this point, anyone has any doubt what we have done so far? We have created a new business flow. We have created a new activity, new yes,
Yes.
activity, flight search, and we have added an error handler. In error handler, we don't have
Mhm.
anything currently, no actions, nothing. Okay. But in
Okay.
flight search activity, I have two actions. One is the launch
Mhm.
URL. The another one is count, setting the count variable as 1. Then what I will do is I will intentionally fail my script. Okay. Now you know how to intentionally fail your script. If you go to this flights option, okay, let me inspect test. Okay. So this is the li element, ul li. Okay. And inside that li, I have a text called flights. Okay. Inside that anchor tag, inside that span, this is the flights text. Okay. So what I will do, I will write an XPath for this because the class has already this one, or we can use the class as well. Let's see. If we put a / span @class equal to this value, you can see I'm getting 8 results. Okay. Flights, hotels, villa and apartments and all. Okay. So I'm getting multiple results, but this will give me the first one. Okay. So if I copy this XPath and I add a UI element action. Okay. And from the platform, I will add a UI element action to get the value. So I will put an XPath over here like this. I will paste it and I will say it is a text which I want to get the value of. And if I run it, I get flights. Okay. I get flights. How I could have get it? Because this XPath, what I'm using currently, is pointing to flights. You can see flights. So that's why I'm getting the text as flights. Okay. So I will use get value from UI. Okay. And I'm getting it as flights, but I am intentionally failing it with hotels. I'm expecting it to be hotels, but it's giving me flights. So this action will fail. Okay. You can see the action get failed. Why? Because flights is not equal to hotels. You are trying to fetch value of flight, but you are matching it with hotels. Okay. So expected failure is there. Okay. You can see first action passed, second action passed, third action failed. And what we said, if there is a failure, that error handler should automatically get called. So what I will do, I will add a set variable action in this one. Okay, and I will set the value. Okay, now you can see now the discrepancy happened because that variable is a activity variable which is present only inside that activity. I will not be able to use. Actually, what I have to do is I have to reset the value of this count. I have to change the value of this count and to check if error handler is working fine. See, what I want to do is I have this activity one which has this number of actions. Okay, so whenever any action fails here, I want to call the error handler, and in the error handler I want to set variable value of count equal to 2, because here I have set the value to 1. Okay, and if there is a failure, error handler should automatically get called and set the value to 2. This is my intention. So for that purpose, I will not use it as an activity variable because the scope is specific to activity. I want to use it as a business flow level. Okay, so I will remove this one and I will add it as a business flow variable here, because I want to increase the scope of that count variable. So I will name it as bf underscore count. Okay, because it's a business flow variable. I want to use it in all the activities what are there in the make my trip business flow. Okay, so for that purpose I made it as business flow variable, and I will change it from here. Okay, I will reopen it and I will change it to bf count, and bf count I want to change it to 1 in the error handler. Okay, I want to set the bf count to 2 so that I will understand, okay, that if my error handler is getting called properly or not. I will rename this to set count variable. Okay, so let's go back to our activity and check what we are doing. We are launching the URL, we are setting the value as 1, we are intentionally failing our action so that error handler should be called and set the value to 2. The count value should become 2 if there is a failure, because error handler will automatically get called. So now I will run this. Okay, I will run this activity. Okay, and you can see as I run the activity, it launched the URL as makemytrip.com. Okay, you can see on the page. Okay, it launched the URL and it failed. Okay, here it failed in the UI. And if we go here, we can see this error handler is also passed. You can see why? Because there is a failure, and on every failure this error handler get called and it set the value to 2. So finally when we set the variable value to 1, but now it becomes 2. Why it became 2? Because error handler got called automatically when there is a failure, and therefore it overrided the variable value from 1 to 2. Okay, you get the idea why is error handler called. Now at any step if we are getting a failure, okay, we will this error handler will be called and we can check if there is a failure. Okay, so
Okay.
let's suppose this make my trip. Okay, this flight search, okay, will have lot of actions in it. Okay, let's suppose I had lot of actions here. I will add more actions, somewhat UI element actions. Okay, like this. And if there is a failure at step 3, error handler will continue the execution to 4 5. Okay, if there is a failure at 4, suppose 1 2 3 passed, failure at 4, error handler will automatically get called executed, and then try to execute 5. So understand the business scenario. At any moment you can get a pop-up, okay, of a failure, but you can suppress the pop-up by clicking on OK. So what we will do, we will write a code of clicking on OK button in this error handler, so that in your script at any moment you get the pop-up, that error handler will automatically handle that pop-up and click on OK and move the execution forward. Why we are using error handler? Because we are not sure if it comes at step 3, at step 4, at step 5, or inside any other activity action. It may be possible that activity 2 has some action in which the pop-up comes. Okay, so that there comes the error handler, that the error handler automatically gets called when there is a failure. It will execute it and will resume the execution from the next action.
See you everyone, and happy learning. Thanks you very much. Thank you everyone.